Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live from the free state of Florida. Now they're all free states, at least from the point of view of the national government. Some of them still have dictatorial Democrat governors, but they're all looking like major jackasses. Number one among them. Who's number one right now? Every week a new one takes over. Newsom had his a day in the sun. Hochul's just a basket case. Now, the one who I actually thought when I analyzed records in 2022 when they were up for re-election, I did think Murphy was the most incompetent governor in America, more than Newsom or Hochul really was new then. Nothing can really compare to Hochul's just like brain dead. But Newsom is very conniving, almost, to the point of it's ridiculous. But Murphy got himself in a good one. I just read an article from an old edition of Epoch Times because I hadn't been getting them for a while, and then they sent me all the back editions, and I'm catching up on them. It was a great article about lying and the different kind of liars there are, and how it goes from very, very serious. Obviously, I mean, lying can be treason, perjury, or it can be you don't want to tell somebody they look bad, right? Because you're being kind or you're embarrassed to do it or whatever. And I really think Democrats have a real problem with this. And I think I know why. I mean, obviously some of it is beyond the pale. Like Biden would fit in the category. They talk about how many lies do people tell in a day. I think the question really about Biden would be how often did he tell the truth? Rarely. So Murphy gets up at a sort of an activist group. Very, very dangerous in front of activist groups, particularly if you're an amateur like Murphy and a bit of a jerk, because you tend to play to them. And you think about it, the Republicans and Democrats who get in trouble in front of their base, somehow they haven't gotten to the realization yet that there's no such thing as, particularly if there's a microphone in front of you, should be kind of a warning. Right, Ted? Should be like, hey, Murphy, you jackass, you got a microphone there. So this guy gets up.
Yeah, he's real cocky.
And he says, this is at this was at a gathering, as I said, of activists in the Garden State. That's what they call New Jersey, the Garden State. And he said that he had opened his home to a female illegal immigrant. Or alien. He called it illegal. He said migrant, but I say alien because that's a statutory word. And that is actually how we're supposed to say it now, according to the new administration. And he also used it to try to taunt Holman and the president and said, yeah, try to get her. The wrong guy I think it's wrong. I look at Holman. I mean, I know cops. Holman is not like the right guy to taunt. First of all, I think there's a real chance, although I think he's under control, that in the old days, he would just smack him around. And I look at Holman's picture here. I don't think I want this guy smacking me around. So let me just read to you what the incompetent, disgraceful governor of New Jersey, who is responsible for proportionally maybe the death of more elderly people than even Cuomo. And more intentional, actually, because he was actually specifically told, whereas Cuomo, you're piecing together circumstantial evidence. He says at a public forum in Montclair, New Jersey, I don't want to get into it too much detail, which indicates that maybe this is true and he doesn't want to get in trouble. But his big mouth gets the better of him. But there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what? Let's have her live at our house above our garage. Murphy said at a public forum in Montclair, New Jersey this Saturday. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her. Tough guy, that Murphy. Wow. Man, that's the kind of guy you can follow. What a leader. All of a sudden, someone brought up, let me just show you this here. This, now these guys never, 18 United States Code, section 1324. So if what he's saying there is true, it's a felony. It could, depending on the severity of it and exactly the status of the person, it could range anywhere from 1 year in jail to 10 years in jail. Basically, it's harboring an illegal person, right? Even reckless disregard is enough. Knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien, oh, by the way, the law uses the word alien. Would you like to see it? Those of you who say undocumented, what the hell does that mean, undocumented? Undocumented. These people have been, a lot of these people have been undocumented from the time they were born. Remains in the United States. Any kind of illegality comes in, entered, or remains in the United States. So somebody like overstaying their visa, transports or moves or attempts to transport an alien within the United States, or conceals in any manner. It's one of those like general laws which they, you know, stretch out to apply to us when they don't. Reckless disregard of the fact, not just knowing. So it's beyond an intent crime, which is very dangerous. And I don't agree with that, by the way. We can have a different argument about that at some point. And I think at some point, the Supreme Court's going to throw all those reckless disregard criminal statutes out, because that's negligence. Sorry, even gross negligence does not amount to a crime. Somebody in an excess of, in this particular case, taking away people's liberty too broadly, forgot the genesis of the criminal law and the difference between the law of crimes and the law of torts. Torts are civil wrongs. So when it's not serious enough, like if it's a mistake, but somebody got hurt, negligence is not a crime. Negligence is an accident. Okay. But Murphy could be prosecuted if he's telling the truth for harboring a fugitive. Or even a person who overstayed their welcome. There obviously was something wrong with her status. That's what he told everybody. But this really doesn't matter, because everybody knows that Murphy lies, which is what the answer of his staff was. The staff says right away, when confronted with the fact that the guy could be prosecuted for harboring an illegal alien, no one's ever lived in the home under those circumstances, the representative said. They didn't point out, they didn't explain why Murphy would urge the Trump administration to go after a woman who wasn't even living there. So now, this is the wrong guy to mess with. So Holman has said very quickly, just to set up, if the governor doesn't immediately explain himself, it's time for the legislature to begin impeachment proceedings. And of course, I have to investigate it. Now, people say, well, how can you investigate? There's something called the United States Attorney. This is a federal crime, if it's a crime. 18 USC, 18 is the code number for all the federal crimes. The U.S. Attorney in New Jersey could subpoena all of his records, the records of his house, his neighbors, subpoena his wife, anybody else that lives there. Find out who is this fugitive that he's talking about. You can put him in front of the grand jury. He can take the Fifth Amendment if he wants, but you can put him in front of the grand jury. Let him explain it under oath, you lying bastard. Huh? You did as us, and this is not getting revenge. This is giving people also a very bad example that it's okay to mess around with these illegals. And I don't know, every day I can give you 15 crimes they're committing. I mean, the people he's picking up, they picked up a guy in Queens who's been in the country for 15 years, a rapist. Who the hell knows how many people he raped? And then when he gets caught for raping somebody and gets brought before the Queens court, Queens, New York, which is a Democrat corrupt court system, the guy raped a girl. And he's an illegal. And he did no time in prison. He's just walking the streets of Queens. You know, it's very rare that somebody rapes once, right? Used to be the way we would catch them. If you couldn't get one, and then you try to go find out. I mean, if we didn't have a lot of rape cases in the federal court, although if it was on federal property, it was a federal crime. So I had a couple of very big ones. And the first thing I told my assistants to do is, as they say in The Godfather, look under his fingernails. If he's a rapist, there are going to be plenty of people out there. These people are, most serious criminals are repeat criminals. Rapists are really repeat criminals. I mean, in the famous cases, it becomes hard because you don't know if the person coming forward is coming forward because there was a whole line of rapes this person committed, or they're looking for money. That's life. I mean, so Guantanamo looks like we got a lot of room there. We got a lot of room for the illegal alien criminals as they're making their way out of the United States. Now, they had 300. They had room for 300 illegal aliens under the Biden administration, which they never used. Now, remember how often people, and when you see these people who commit crimes, rape somebody, kill somebody, whatever, you'll see that they were not detained because there was no room for them. Do you know that's a complete lie? A complete lie. Everything they say is a lie. There was room in the very places where they say there was no room, the detention facilities were closed or empty. I know the detention facilities. I built some of them. I don't mean with my own hands. I built them. Somebody else built them. But I authorized them because of the Mariel boat lift and the Haitian illegal immigration. Now, I do believe that immediately they can put 500 in there. And then, man, I would have loved this. 45 square miles. Got 45 square miles and get them the hell out of, get them out of the Roosevelt Hotel and stick them down there. Let's see. And then all those crooked people who take care of homeless people and illegal aliens won't be making, excessive money and paying kickbacks. That's another great investigation for the United States attorneys all over the country. When you hear no bid, Democrat, all the new U.S. attorneys, advice from an old one, 4 out of 5 chance you're going to get a criminal case out of that. Just remember 2 things. No bid, Democrat, crime. Not always. Not a bad investment of resources. And by the way, you do a couple of them and you scare the shit out of them and they stop. Also, I mean, these places are opening up like crazy. Rubio came back with an extra bonus, having bludgeoned everybody into submission. Panama is now going to renew China. Except the way I read it, they were extended for 20 years. So China going to be there for 20. I don't think Trump is going to like that answer, that they're going to be there for 20 years. But in any event, El Salvador must be wanting something big because they are sucking up big time. El Salvador is willing to take, oh my gosh, is it 30,000? So they have this super prison called the Terrorism Confinement Center, CCOT. And it's the Central American nation's solution to rampant gang violence. Human rights advocates, however, say the 15,000 inmates face inhumane treatment. They don't say anything about what the inmates do to the people of El Salvador when they're not there, which is super inhumane treatment. Oh, also, up to a third of the people there are believed to be innocent. Well, I don't know about that. So if they are innocent, throw them out and make room for the illegal migrants. We don't want to get involved in the internal affairs of El Salvador. Ours are complicated enough. But President Nayib Bukele in San Salvador on Monday, and it could begin accepting prisoners immediately, and he's going to give Rubio a good rate. He says, you're going to be very surprised at how much less you'll have to pay because we're a poor country and a few bucks means something to us. We're paying a fortune for these people all over the country. In New York, I know we spend more on the illegal aliens than we do our own homeless people. And number two, a lot more than we spend on veterans, and that is a disgrace. Just another one of the sins that and the disgraces, and as Italians would say, infamias of the Democrats. So the CCOT prison is 47 miles southwest of the Capitol, and it's got a bunch of gangbangers from MS-13 in there already, and they also have the rival Barrio 18 there, and they occasionally, I imagine they occasionally, maybe they could send Bernie there and straighten it out first. And, Bernie did miracles with the, Bernie Carrick, I'm talking about, the third of my police commissioners, who was with me on September 11, and a great hero. But Bernie was the corrections commissioner before, and he was in the corrections for 5 years. And he brought down violence by over 90%. And I know when I say that, people think I'm exaggerating. I don't exaggerate. I don't have to. Watch 60 Minutes. In 1999, they were going in there to do a hit job on him. Instead, they came away with, oh my God, he did a miracle. He did miracles here. And then they did a hell of a piece. But so we got all kinds of answers immediately now. If you want to do something, you just do it. I mean, there's always options. I remember during the beginning of the pandemic, de Blasio and Cuomo, and part of the problems in New York that made New York probably one of the worst performers in the country, the two of them hated each other and then talked to each other, which becomes impossible when you have a crisis that is, involves both the city and the state. But both of them are saying we don't have any place to put them. I was trying to get their attention. They've got all the places where we used to put the nut jobs, who walk around the streets now and kill people. I mean, we let thousands of them out. You got a hospital that's so big. I mean, I don't even want to hesitate. It's a state hospital, so I never ran it, but I pass it all the time, and you do too. If you drive into New York from LaGuardia Airport, looks like it takes up half of Randall's Island, called the Goldwater. pavilion. I wouldn't be surprised if it has 7,000, 8,000 beds. I wouldn't be surprised. Kings County Hospital wants for 2,500 beds. All these people will let out. So the New York Post has an editorial calling Phil Murphy a total twit. That sounds like the War of 1812, right? Yeah. Oh, poor, Stephen's dog is here, the famous Raleigh, but we're not able to put him on because he doesn't have his union contract yet. Is he willing to waive and come on a little later?
Yeah.
He's scared though, isn't he?
He's really scared.
Yeah.
Raleigh, there's fireworks outside for those.
Here, let's give Raleigh a little treat.
Hear.
Come here, bring him over.
Raleigh, he's gonna give you a treat.
Look, Raleigh, here. Come on, Raleigh. Don't be scared, Raleigh. Here, Raleigh.
Oh, he doesn't even want it.
Raleigh,
He's so scared. He's just
like,
guys, we're being attacked.
He's shaking. The dog is shaking. Oh, poor guy. It's only fireworks.
It's just fireworks, buddy.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Oh, you know what he thinks? I know what it is. He heard about how those Democrats want to fight, and want to go to war. He thinks the war started. That could be Raskin and a platoon of Democratic congressmen attacking Palm Beach.
Gotta play that video.
Could you just give me a broom? I think I could beat him with a broom.
That was
What would there be fireworks tonight for? Anybody want to make a guess? Is there a party going on?
When was the Chinese New Year? Is that?
No, I think it's over.
That's over.
I think. Maybe.
What day? What is it today? We'll figure
check
that out. We'll
Just
get
ask.
back
Maybe
to
it
you.
is. And what year? And also get for me what year it is. They always have animals like the year of the rat and the year of the dog and the year of the skunk and the. So I needed a little linguistic analysis here or definitional
By the way,
help.
but did you guys guess what the fireworks are for? I just asked some locals.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess?
Do they know?
Well, they're about to tell us, but I'm just curious.
I think it's an attack.
An attack
by a group of Democrats.
The Democrats are attacking.
The Democrats are attacking. They said this is a follow-up to their declaration of war today. They figure they don't know that Trump is not at Mar-a-Lago. Sounds like the Secret Service has blown most of them away.
See what that.
So far, it's Secret Service. Secret Service are now the good guys. So Secret Service 20, Rebel Democrat 0. This is like, remember they talk about insurrections. The Democratic Party led the biggest insurrection in the history of America, otherwise known as the Civil War, in order to preserve their favorite institution, slavery.
So you were saying before I cut you off, Mayor, so rudely cut you off, you needed some linguistic analysis.
Yeah, I needed some analysis. What does the word twit mean? Because the Post, which is is the oldest American newspaper, and I would never criticize their use of the English language because they're very professional journalists. I don't always agree with them, but I always respect them. Phil Murphy, total twit.
A silly or a foolish person.
It's not a dirty word.
This, according to
they give you
English word for a twitten, which is reproach with, from, at, witten, to blame.
I remember a Roald Dahl book with the witches and the twits. It is. I've heard it used in that context.
I thought it was a dirty word.
I think it's a fun.
The dirty version is switching the I to an A.
What is that?
I guess.
What is that?
No, that's enough. That's enough. We pushed the needle enough here. Sending out a flag on Monday to admit the governor had made the whole thing up. In other words, he was lying. It's otherwise known as governor. It's otherwise known as lying. explaining that Phil was actually talking about a legal immigrant pal who has never lived in his house. So he lied, completely unprompted, to play the progressive tough guy. Oh, was I using it wrong?
You're good. No? Wait, what?
How's Raleigh doing? Is he calmed down a little?
He's scared.
Yeah, is he by the door like
He's
like he,
right here.
like he wants to run out in case something?
Aw, he's shaking.
I'm counting on Raleigh scaring him off. I don't know. Raleigh, you got to be. We only have a little group here.
Did we figure out what the fireworks were?
You know who would be really valuable in this fight? Dr. Maria. She's a real warrior. I don't know. I think she was over there before listening to the show. I think she went and got her gun. She's ready for him. So Trump cut off all the entire budget of USAID. USAID has been an instrument, at least in my opinion, has been an instrument of the Communist Party since it was born. And they give out 40 billion. It's not as if, and you know immediately this is stupid because they're an independent agency. Well, there are no independent agents. The Constitution doesn't make room for floating agencies. You're either in the judicial branch, well, they're not, right? Or the legislature, Article 1, legislature. They're not in the legislature. Article 3, judiciary. They're not in the judiciary. Executive, well, they sort of claim to be, but they're independent, which means they don't exist. I think they should be declared unconstitutional. And if they exist at all, they exist as an executive agency. We have a unitary executive, which means everyone is a creature of the president in the executive branch. They derive their power from the president. In the federal government, you can derive your power from only one of three sources: the legislature, the executive, the judiciary. They derive their power. And what they got caught doing, I think he was going to zero them out anyway. But I think it just speeded up when he found out they had a big plan to undercut all of the changes he was going to make. In other words, if he was going to move money from one NGO, which is probably crooked, to another, they were going to just get like a shadow NGO. That whole big plan to undercut him. And fortunately, unlike last time when we were all, including me, naive, this time his people were ready for it. And before they got a chance to do it, they're all been put on the whole agency is put on administrative leave. Now, I strongly urge getting rid of the agency. I'm going to find the column because I mentioned it now twice, and it was one of the better pieces of advice that said, if you want to cut down the government, this was advice for how to actually reduce the size of government so it sticks. Get rid of the function. Don't just get rid of the people. If you keep the function, oh, maybe you'll do it right, but they can still screw it up when they take over and change it. What do we need this for? First of all, we shouldn't be giving money to foreign governments or any foreign sources not under the control of the president or the Congress, or both. If we want to give the president some discretion to move some money around, which I think we probably do, then it should be the president should make that decision, not some independent group of eggheads or communists or crooks. You have no idea how the non-governmental agency or not-for-profit world is as corrupt as the business world, or more. If you hear, particularly overseas, that's how a lot of the foreign aid is misdirected. There's $5 billion in foreign aid that went to Ukraine during the Obama years that they don't know where it went because it got lost in a labyrinth of NGOs, many of them Soros's. And when the government of Ukraine got nervous that they get in trouble, and they were investigating it. Biden sent one of the ambassadors to meet with them and told them, don't investigate it. Don't investigate and try to recover $5 billion for us. Why? Because if you looked under the rug, oh, there's that NGO that contributed $1 million to the Democratic PAC. Oh my God, look at the amount of money they're making. They're making millions. Oh, and he's the brother of the senator. Gee. So this is the declaration. This is the formal declaration of war against Palm Beach.
Yeah.
They've been beaten back, though. I want you to know that the Democrats trying to invade Palm Beach with firecrackers have been beaten back by the local militia. I'm kidding. Ha 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 ha. Everybody around here is too serious to laugh, but I know you're laughing. So
That was very funny, Mayor.
Hey, and I actually came up. So, if you wanted to know the Chinese zodiac symbol for this year, it is the year of the snake. Odd. I know we're a little off topic with that, but I dug it up, and yeah, it's kind of.
That's why they were working so hard to elect Biden.
Yeah, it's starting to make sense, isn't it?
Yeah, they wanted a snake.
Oh yeah.
Snake story. We gotta get a snake story.
Remember, let's follow through here. The communists are satanic. What was the devil? What form did the devil take in the Garden of Eden? A serpent. How many great works of art are there with Adam and Eve and the serpent going up the tree
And losing his legs as a punishment.
Do you know that Marx either analogized himself to Satan or really was a little wacky and thought he was Satan for a period of time? Karl Marx. He has a whole thing about a whole book that he wrote about how Satan was right and God was wrong. A lot of communism and the rejection of God is that there's nobody smarter than the communist leader, including God. And remember, it's the tree of knowledge. And part of the sin was that you would know as much or more than God if you ate the apple.
I don't like calling it I think that calling it knowledge, and I know that that's like, the biblical nomenclature, but it's
right.
It almost is enticing, and how we're enticed to sin generally as people.
Well, the idea is the person who has complete knowledge is the person that can control everything. And then is there someone above God? Now, I don't know if he was actually very religious, as you would imagine, as a young man. So of course, the USAID is suspected of having given an awful lot of money to Hamas and the people. It is a very, very anti-Semitic. It has very close ties and has given a lot of money to Marxist organizations like the group called the Liberation of Palestine, which is a terrorist organization, and the Palestinian Medical Relief Society, whose president described the massacres in Israel as a glorious, let me get this right now, a glorious day for the Palestinian resistance and people. We gave money through USAID. You think maybe they should go? Now, 20 Palestinian NGOs received money in 2022, 23, and 24 from USAID. How many of those you think resulted in the people getting anything? And it didn't go into the coffers of Hamas. And the same thing happens up in the north with Fatah. Fatah isn't the terrorist group anymore that it used to be when it was the PLO. But it used to be originally actually more corrupt than Hamas. Hamas started as a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood and was sort of a violent, homicidal, maniac killers but weren't thieves, but they've become thieves now too. So good. I mean, it gets lost in all the action that he's taken. But this is another really great thing, getting us the hell out of USAID, getting us out of the relief agency UNRWA, which actually had UN employees that were fighting on October 7 and killing women and children. There are 12 identified, but the suspicion is there were far more than that. In fact, UNRWA has been described really as a functionary of Islamic extremist terrorism, as opposed to the UN. And there is some thought of declaring it a terrorist group. That thought should be put into action. Based on majority vote, you might do it to the entire UN, but that's a bigger discussion. So he dismantled it in 8 days. 10,000 people, all now on the sidelines. He closed the main building. He pulled down its website. The remaining 1,400 staffers that haven't been gotten rid of are on administrative leave. It was established in 1961 to manage disease outbreak and reduce child mortality. A lot of mission creep, huh? And it was kept as a distinct agency from state. I don't know how you can do that. I really don't know legally how you can do that. And anything it does is valid. It has to be connected in order to have power. Remember, the federal government only has the power granted to it in the Constitution. It has no inherent power. That was one of the protections that we had against a dictatorship.
Well, the State Department probably wants to distance itself from all the, say, coups that maybe are planned by USAID, or maybe the murders.
It really depended on whether our Secretary of State was a communist sympathizer or not.
There you go.
If he was a communist sympathizer, like under most of the Democrats, they played ball with. And most of the corruption went to the Democrat NGOs. And
oh, yeah, that's the whole game.
Yeah. So the president has started so many discussions and things that are moving that nobody looked at before, that it's really remarkable. And they happen like the one yesterday. The one Tuesday happened where the president said, we're going to take over. We're going to take over Gaza. And then, oh God, yeah. Now people are saying, what are the alternatives? I mean, how about this one? I think we should get Greenland. I think we should take the canal back. Well, that's terrible. Then we find out that China is controlling 2 of the 5 locks in the canal, which means they could block it at any time. That they're doing it through a company that has all the earmarks of an absolutely corrupt company that gives out bribes. That would describe any company from China, right? Panama, the last president of Panama is in jail for taking bribes. Got to paint the picture for you. And just 2 years ago, their contract was renewed with, remember I said, no bid, Democrat. What happens? Corruption. No bid, China and Panama, 20-year contract. What do you think the odds are that the people that running the Panama Canal were smeared? That the red Chinese who bribed, on a dime, gave the crooked Bidens 30 million. And there's no bid. It's renewed for 20 years with no bid. And now they have said, they're not going to renew them. But I don't see, and I could be missing something. I mean, I haven't looked at all the contracts. I don't see how they can not. I don't see when they get the opportunity not to renew them. They just renewed them on a no bid contract for 20 years. When I say them, the company here's a little bit of the confusion, but I mean, you should be able to, walk and chew gum at the same time. You should get yourself through this confusion if you have an IQ of about 35. So the company that originally got the contract was a Hong Kong company. So Hong Kong, at the time that they originally won the bid for 2 of the locks, was technically part of the UK. However, within weeks of that, or maybe months of that, very shortly thereafter, it was turned over to China, and they knew it was going to be turned over to China. So it wasn't like a big shock. Then, of course, that took a while, and then the whole situation in Hong Kong. You might have said at the beginning of that Hong Kong was going to be a sort of commonwealth, and where it was going to be autonomous and be able to function as a democracy. And that lasted, for about 2 days, right? And now it is, through violence and everything else, Hong Kong is just part of China. Now, there is a law in China, a law. And, they enforce their laws by killing you if you don't do it, particularly this law. Every single private company in China works for the Red Chinese. They are required to give the government anything the government asks for, including money, all their money. Remember, it's a communist country. Yeah, our greedy business people who wanted to do business there tried to convince us it was a capitalist country. This completely negates a capitalist country. Every single company in China is a functionary of the Red Chinese government. And the government has the right to take any of its property, any of the information it acquires, which is how they spy on us. That's what the whole thing with TikTok is about. So here, this guy writes an article saying that, you really shouldn't, you really should take Trump seriously, because when we gave away the canal, we signed 2 treaties. One treaty was a treaty of neutrality. And that treaty, we turned it over over a period of time to Panama. Okay. But then the other treaty says that at any time, in our discretion of the United States, don't have to justify it to Panama or anybody else, we can use military force if we believe that the neutrality of the canal is in jeopardy. So the guy who was the expert speaking to the Wall Street Journal today said, well, we'll have to see if China is using that operation and contract at the canal for spying. What are you, a jerk? You actually are seriously you're gonna spend time answering that question? When they have police stations in America spying on things that are hell of a lot less important than the Panama Canal? It wouldn't be communist China if it wasn't spying there. Are you a jerk? Yeah. I think the expert, because I've read what he said, a lot of this stuff makes sense. I think he's a jerk. He's like a professor jerk. He's actually saying, well, we'll have to see if they're actually using it for. What are you, crazy? Of course they are. It's like Wuhan Lab. People get all confused. The military ran Wuhan Lab. The military runs every lab in China. And if they don't run it, they have access to it. In this particular case, they actually ran it. They had troops there. Why do we lie to our people? This is a very formidable, very conniving, very formidable in terms of intelligence, maybe the most formidable from the point of view of intelligence enemy we ever faced. I had a lot of experience with Russian intelligence when I was in the Justice Department, because it was, the Cold War, and it was the Cold War coming to an end, but really boiling up in the first 3 or 4 years. And the Russians were not nearly as capable as this, nor had they infiltrated us in such a sophisticated way. So they actually get us to work against each other. You can't criticize China without getting destroyed. They're almost like, Biden and the Democrat Party, except they're even better at it. You go ahead and criticize China, they'll try to get you fired. They'll try to get you destroyed. They'll have articles about you that'll come out of left field, excuse the pun, saying you're some kind of a maniac. Or this is a very, very intricate 40 to 50 year infiltration that has been done below the radar, and because they flew below Russia, and we let them do it. Some of us unknowingly, and some of us knowingly. And when I say some of us, I never trusted them, and I always thought they were more dangerous than the Russians. Always, from way back when I was a college student, it always seemed to me they were considerably more out of control than the Soviets. And not that the Soviets weren't terrible. But the Soviets, at least a good many of them, do retain some aspects of Western civilization that humanized them to some extent. So you can make all kinds of deals with their spies, and got to be almost silly after a while. These guys are totally different. In any event, we have a serious issue with Panama Canal. And whether we take it over or not, China should be kicked the hell out of there right now. No waiting for renewal, no waiting for anything. And the government of Panama, if they want to stay there as the government of Panama, should be given a time limit to throw them out. And if they need help to throw them out, we can help them. We can send the Marines there, give them all their files and everything else. In fact, why don't we go take all their files? That's what they do to us. I mean, if they went into Mar-a-Lago, how about we go? How about we go into see what kind of files? Why don't we find out if they were spying through the canal? The same thing in terms of law is true with Greenland. So Greenland has there's special provision for the United States to deploy military there in order to protect itself and to protect NATO. And we do have a major Pituffik space base in Greenland. It's a good-looking space base. This is. I was always looking. Well, I'm going to put up a picture of it because I was always looking for a place up in like the Arctic Circle or Antarctica to send the people that wouldn't leave the Justice Department or the State Department when I wanted them fired. I thought we could set up a special institute in the Arctic Circle and send all the left-wingers there.
What time is it in the Arctic Circle?
Ooh, let's go find out.
If you're at the top of the... Anyway.
Yeah, but go find out. It gets very confusing because, the time zones move like that. And yeah.
They meet up there, right?
It would really depend on what does it due north of?
What time?
What's it due north of?
All the time zones meet at the top, right? Or is that not how it works?
Yeah, but they come together.
So the time in the Arctic is the Greenwich Mean Time plus 1 hour.
Well, why don't could we do it like just with a clock?
Great. So what?
Okay,
Okay,
they have all the clocks out.
Is that
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Rome, Paris. For dummies like us, it might be better to do it that way. I have a watch, or I did have a watch until it was seized from me. I have a watch Oh, we're gonna take a break because I'm not allowed to talk about watches. We'll be right. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Don't forget promo code Rudy. So if you want to take a look over there, you'll see that we do have military installations in this is a space base in Greenland. It's called Pituffik Space Base in Greenland. We also occupied Greenland during the Second World War to protect it. And we have at various times during the Cold War had larger number of troops, fewer number of troops. I don't think it's particularly public how many we have there now, but we do. Why? Because it's if you think about where it is, it protects the Atlantic side of the the entry or the ability to get to the United States, whereas a Alaska is a perfect, performs that role for us on the Pacific side. So there have been various, at times, attempts by American presidents to acquire Greenland. I think going back to when we got Alaska. But certainly the most recent that is at least recorded was Truman at the beginning of the Cold War, saw how important it was, and but either it wasn't taken seriously or it wasn't pursued. But he wanted control. He wanted to make it part of the United States, and I mean, he really is the president, the first president that under which the Cold War was fought, and set up a lot of the structures for good and bad, mostly good, for us to wear down the Soviets. And there, originally, it was the Soviets. The communists hadn't even won yet. The communists in China hadn't even won yet. That became a second front, and the Korean War got all involved in that. But he wanted Greenland, and for years, at various times over the last 5 decades, there has been discussion about getting Greenland. This is not some Trump like they paint it. This is actually a great idea that would make us safer if it was accomplished. And it's the job of the president to make us safe, not to satisfy the whims of the stupid, uneducated press or elite. Or how can we say we want Greenland? First of all, it's 45,000 people. They live pretty, I wouldn't say they live in poverty, but they live certainly not a luxurious existence. They have tremendous number of complaints with their relationship with Denmark, which, who knows what side is which. They have the right to make their own decision about this by vote. I don't want to say plebiscite because that connotes the Nazis, but it just means vote of the people. Actually, it's a little insulting. It means votes of the plebeians. This would be very difficult to accomplish, not so much with Denmark, but with the Inuit people. The Inuit people are allegedly the original inhabitants of Greenland, and they do make up since Greenland has never had a lot of colonization of any kind. I guess not a terribly desirable place to live. The funny thing, when I never been to Greenland, but I've been to Iceland, and you would think Iceland is ice and Greenland is green, and it's just the other way around. Iceland is green and Greenland is ice because it's further north and much bigger. And also allegedly filled with exactly the minerals and rare earth commodities that we need if we're going to triple and quadruple our electrical sources, not just for electrical vehicles that may or may not work, but really for the more important purpose of defeating China in the AI war, in the quantum computing war, in the war of who's got the best and the fastest technology. Because I do buy into the theory of Gordon Chang that war is as important as it is part of our military war with China, military buildup. I mean, we could have a better military in every respect, and if their computing is much faster than ours and more intricate than ours, they can undercut all of our systems. Same thing the other way around. And right now, I do think it's prudent to say that we're ahead, but all things point to their being able to overtake us because they're investing more in it until now when we finally got an American president. And you just look at how he's finding many ways to pour money into that. Because even though these advances are to cure cancer and all of it contributes to our superior ability to operate technologically. And part of the criticism of the Biden administration was they weren't investing enough money and organized effort into it. So the more we can, the better, and the more we continue to make up for the fact that we've allowed China to control a lot of the raw materials that we need to accomplish this. Now, this is something that the Biden administration, I never thought they'd get credit for anything. Give them credit for this. They have, recognizing this, they've gotten us to a point where we were like 97% dependent on China for all of this. When now we've gotten that down to something like 85%. Still sounds very dangerous, but if we can continue in that direction, and you sort of get to a point where you start building this up, and then it really starts to move very, very quickly. Your lead starts to move very quickly. I mean, really, the answer here is we got to cut them off from stealing from us, which is going to be harder than it was 5 years ago, because don't you realize that Xi Jinping, who is a very, very conniving, smart, and unscrupulous adversary, he used the open borders to send in every kind of spy that he wanted here. I mean, he didn't have to worry about getting them past anything, or we weren't going to catch anything. We never even vetted them. I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of military-aged male Chinese that came into the United States completely unvetted. And, if they were vetted, of course, they would lie to us also. So what's the purpose of vetting somebody from a totalitarian lying regime? It's like the people from Venezuela. We have when the New York Times and the Catholic Church and all these other people who are living on Mars or something say, oh, these are really not, they're not criminals, and these are really just people who want to work and people who want to do this and people want to do that. How the hell do they know that? We don't know anything about them. We didn't vet them. And even if we tried, we couldn't vet them. The ones that are really a danger come from places that don't give us any information. Now, if you are a criminal, right? If you're a terrorist, run a terrorist group, you run a communist country that wants to destroy us, you run a drug operation that wants to make money off us and destroy us, you run a child trafficking ring, a human trafficking ring with females and whatever, you're gonna quadruple your business when the border's open. When the border is, let's not say closed, but appropriately staffed, every time you come in, you run a risk that you're going to get caught. And you're not going to get caught every time, but you run that, you almost have to figure that into your business. And there are certain things you might not bring in because it's too dangerous to take a risk. But when the border is open, you're in control. You can move into the United States any resources that you want. And they did. And they're here. And it gives China a much greater advantage than they had 5 years ago. And rather than just stopping it, which I think he's already stopped it. I don't think if you're coming from China, you're getting it right now. However, he's inherited a disaster, and particularly in this area. So any advantages we can get, like grabbing Greenland, not a bad idea. And if you read Lauder's column, there are a couple of good suggestions short of America owning or controlling or making it a state. One of them being a joint arrangement between the United States, Denmark, and Greenland, where we each have like a different role, and our role would be security. And for that, they would they would get the support of Denmark as well as the United States. But we basically would call the shots in terms of what kind of military facilities and intelligence facilities were there. And we would protect it against China trying to get it. I don't think Russia has the capacity. I don't think Russia has the. I think, given where Russia is, it's going to take about 10 years for them to recover from what happened to them in Ukraine. Their military. I mean, their military is down to having to take North Koreans and then who can't speak Russian and don't know where the hell they are and are getting killed like by the poof. And also something that, is hidden, but it seems to be emerging now. They're taking a lot of people from other countries and they're paying them to fight in Ukraine. Russia is like, I guess, mercenaries, you'd call it. And the people don't speak Russian. And they're shooting each other. Their losses, although, you can't trust these figures until we can really take a look at them. It appears, although I'd want to see this for sure, it appears as if Russia has lost more military than Ukraine. Now, Ukraine has lost, obviously, more civilians because it was fought on Ukrainian territory, which is a tragedy. But Russia did not, no matter how this ends, this was not a 100% great victory for Russia. They paid a very heavy price for this. Their economy is in shambles. Their military is exposed as very incompetent. And even if it was competent, a large segment of it is gone. And I think it actually served a good purpose with China, and it has made China more nervous about whether they're just going to be able to go into Taiwan and just, particularly since they haven't fought a war in a long time. Russians at least fought in Afghanistan. And an army that hasn't fought a war ain't much of an army. So I think the Greenland thing is going to be pursued, and it's going to be pursued very, very seriously. The Panama thing is deadly serious. You've got to get China out of there. No ifs, ands, or buts. And if it means taking the military and taking Panama and controlling it for a while, look, we did it to get Noriega. So the FBI, Ted, you asked me this question a couple of weeks ago. You just out of the blue raised the question of whatever happened to that guy who bombed the Republican National Committee and the Democrat National Committee on January 6th, right? And I guess this has been a big question for Senator Johnson and Jim Jordan and Barry and Representative Barry Loudermilk, because in all their investigations they can't find out, and it appears as if would you believe the FBI might have lied to them? Could you believe that the FBI might have lied?
Oh no.
No, under Winky Dink.
That's like my default assumption typically. Just believe the opposite of what they're saying.
Well,
I can't wait till we figure out MLK, JFK, all the different files.
Oh my God.
That's going to be exciting.
But so remember, there were two bombs: Republican National Committee, Democratic National Committee, and they investigated for all of a month. And then they closed the investigation after a month, saying that they hadn't been able to ID anybody, in part because of corrupted cellular data. Now, the Senate and the House committees have met with all of the cellular companies that could possibly be involved, who say it's bullshit. First of all, there was no corrupted data. And second, the FBI wouldn't know because they never contacted them. So they lied because they don't want to give up who the bomber was.
Maybe they corrupted the data themselves.
Well, I mean, the January 6th committee has destroyed records.
Yeah, well, if you're doing something terribly wrong.
How many more things How many more of these things have to happen in terms of destroying evidence, covering things up, to realize that this was a setup? Now, for me, I realized it the night of January 6th, and I've taken you through that, but I will make it easy, and I think we'll put on our website. We'll put on the podcast that I did probably around January 8 or 9, in which within 2 days I tell you that this was probably orchestrated by Antifa, with evidence of that. Evidence of, first of all, Antifa recruiting people to go in there, and then a report afterwards that there were around 250 Antifa people in there. Now, I guarantee you, the January 6th committee and the Biden Gestapo, otherwise known as the FBI, did not make any attempt to identify through facial recognition any of the Antifa people, or if they did, they certainly never made that available. I mean, we could start with one of the guys that was banging down the door and trying to get into Pelosi's chamber, who would have been the logical person to shoot if you were going to lose control of yourself and shoot someone, rather than Ashley Babbitt. Which was, I mean, that's a scandal of, to cover up a possible first-degree murder is unforgivable. And every one of those January 6 people, when I see them, that's what I see. When I look at Mary Cheney, what the hell's her name? Fat face Cheney. What's her name?
Was it with
Stupid Liz.
Liz Cheney. Is the wife Mary?
Lizzie.
Is the wife Mary? Is Cheney's wife Mary? I think so. But there she is pontificating, and she's covering up a first-degree murder. I mean, don't you feel compelled as a member of that committee, if you're going to make all these allegations, to get to the bottom of why the hell did they kill Ashley Babbitt? There's absolutely no explanation for it other than first-degree murder. There's even a very good case that could be made that Sullivan, who videoed the whole thing, seemed to know that the hit was going to take place. I can't be sure of that, but I sure as heck would want to investigate that. I can be sure that it was set up.
Yeah, and why did the cop get paid so much?
Enormous amounts, and he complained that he wanted more.
And why? I mean, and
he was also promoted.
What position do you have to be in to be able to demand more in that case?
You have information that would destroy all of them. And now when I look back on the 4 suicides, I say to myself, which they try to blame on the riot, so-called riot. Well, first of all, I don't remember lots of suicides by law enforcement after September 11. September 11 was a lot worse than that. I mean, it's not common that after a riot, police officers go blow their brains out. I mean, there were riots all that summer, much worse than this, much worse, where cops took a much worse beating than this. Cops actually died.
And the rhetoric, the entire country was against them.
Yeah. No, I don't remember a lot of suicides. Is it possible that those suicides are the result of guys who knew too much? I don't know. That's what you do when you investigate. You raise those questions. Oh, God forbid you ask that question. When you do that, you cut off. It's like when either the day of or the day after the attempt to assassinate President Trump in Butler County, the FBI, in the same press conference, said something that is so contradictory that it just jumped out at me, and once again just reminded me how corrupt our press is. It said it's too early for us to say anything about this investigation because we haven't had time to really investigate it. And then they said definitively Nobody else was involved and there was no conspiracy. Well, now how can you say that if you haven't investigated it? That's because you want it to be that way. I mean, they didn't know any more than you did or I did if it was a conspiracy. They're telling us we're not going to investigate that because, shit, man, it could have been a conspiracy and it might go right to, you know who? Who had the biggest motive? They did everything else to him, right? I went to President Trump about a year before. It really was a joint thought of mine and Bernie Carrick. We were sitting around thinking, if they tried everything else, why wouldn't they try murder? And my first reaction to it was to Bernie, well, that's a tough jump. He said, well, now just ask yourself this question. You've investigated them probably more than anybody else, meaning Biden and his people. Are they capable of it, given what else they did? I said, you're damn right they're capable of it. If you can be part of a overthrowing of a lawfully elected president on a paid-for, phony, trumped-up story, yeah, you can commit murder. Absolutely. I mean, they did everything else. Biden double-crossed his country with China. A guy who can be a traitor can be a killer. I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying he's got to be investigated. If you don't investigate him, you don't have a thorough investigation. When you don't investigate the person with the largest motive to commit the crime, you haven't investigated the case. If you prosecuted somebody else, part of my defense would be you didn't investigate. I mean, it's a typical defense. People get acquitted sometimes that way. They're prosecuting somebody and the defense lawyer is smart enough to figure out there's somebody else with a greater motive where the police maybe don't want to investigate him. You make your whole defense about that and you get an acquittal. China is retaliating with lifting their tariffs, and it doesn't mean shit. The tariffs are much more damaging to them than to us because we're the country with the trade deficit. We're also the country with the massive market. Their market, nothing compared to ours. Now, their economy, we used to be really afraid of it, and now most responsible economists are saying, oh, well, they may overtake us at the end of the century. Used to be in 2030, they were going to overtake us. Changed a little, huh? So right now, the tariffs that were put on by China, there are more exemptions than there are tariffs. And China has to play a really careful game here. They can't lose our market. We are their biggest market, and we are way ahead of anyone else in terms of profitability. We're the richest country in the world by 3 to 1. We have the most desirable. They may have the most consumers. We have the most desirable consumers. We're a sure thing if you can market in America. We cut you out, and their financial problems, which have been killing them, particularly with real estate, we could put them into a death spiral. And don't think that Trump doesn't know that. I mean, the Democrats would never know because they don't understand the economy. Plus, they're communists and wouldn't want to do it to China. They have released just a single fact about the DC crash, and that is that the helicopter was flying at least 100 feet higher than it should be in a zone that it shouldn't have been in. You put together a lot of those facts, and we really need an answer to this. I mean, the helicopter was warned twice. So far, there hasn't been anything much better than the pilot could have mistaken another plane for the plane that he crashed into. But the other plane, it's hard to really envision that because the other plane was I may be recreating it. I may be recreating it wrong, but I don't think I'm recreating the distances wrong. So it would be another application of the same thing. It's like the difference between the plane that he crashed into was right here, and the plane that they think might have confused him was way up there. I don't think if you see way up there. So I don't know. Why would the pilot be looking that way? Unless he had a crooked neck, or she did. And we sure don't know enough about her. I know you got a family, and the family had her name withheld for a day. And I'm sorry, this is not about a family. This is about a lot of people that are dead that shouldn't be dead. This was a set of mistakes, and we got to figure them out so we don't do them again. And if it makes people feel bad, it's just about saving lives. So, and don't feel bad. People make mistakes if it turns out to be that way. I really hope they don't. But the NTSB is not the FBI. The NTSB, unless I'm sadly mistaken, which I had a great deal of contact with Flight 800, is a absolutely first-rate organization. And if they can answer this, they will. They won't be afraid to. I know a lot of people think that they were covering up Flight 8, the whole big conspiracy theory about Flight 800. I know Flight 800, backwards and forwards, because we handled all of the families. We handled the family center. We handled the original diving for 10 days because the Coast Guard had abandoned New York. So we were very heavily involved in it, and I stayed involved in it. And they turned over everything to try to figure out if that was a terrorist attack. And there are people in the FBI, and when the FBI was the FBI, who actually truly believed that it was a terrorist attack. I never saw enough. I can't exclude it. Even then, before I was back then, I probably wouldn't buy almost any conspiracy theory. Now I could buy anyone after what I've seen. But in any event, even back then, I didn't think there was enough to responsibly say it was a terrorist attack. But I also didn't think there was enough to rule it out. In fact, after September 11, I asked the FBI to go back and to see if there were any, now that we had more intelligence, to go back on the list of passengers on 800 to see if there are any with Al-Qaeda ties or Islamic extremist Islamic terrorist ties. And they didn't find any. And it was a different FBI. As I said, if there were, they'd have found them. These guys are all retired, and they're all patriots, and they're all brokenhearted over what has happened to the FBI. President Trump's going to the Super Bowl. Did you know that? This is a big disappointment for us.
Yeah, the boss is going to the Super Bowl. I did hear that.
We've watched the last 2 Super Bowls with him, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago it was the same.
And the same
Chiefs,
lineup.
Eagles,
But we'd have
different
to,
quarterbacks.
since I want Philadelphia to win this time, maybe this would be better. I just watched that movie. What do they call it? Juju. That's like the superstition about where you sit.
Yeah.
And they were Eagles in the movie. They're Eagles fans,
Right.
and so I remember where you were sitting. I remember where I was sitting. I remember where the president was sitting. I remember where he was sitting next to his father-in-law. I remember, and so it's probably better if he isn't there, if we go there to watch it, because then we won't be sitting in the same places.
But now you're going because you're now going for the
I want to beat those Kansas City.
yeah.
Chiefs
Last
because
time
they
you won,
cheat.
yeah. So you think they cheat?
No, I don't.
You still
But I
don't-
like
you
to
don't
say-
you don't like.
I like to say it's all because of Taylor Swift.
She
I'll be
endorsed
honest.
Kamala,
I'll be
right?
honest.
She was kind of
It's all
nasty
because-
towards Trump supporters too. It wasn't just that she endorsed Kamala; she was kind of nasty.
Yeah, she was nasty. I mean, and,
They always say things
well,
like,
I
we need
really,
tolerance and
really, we should realize and be more humble. I mean, she is a great political scholar, right? I mean, she's written so many authoritative books on foreign policy and
right.
domestic policy, and she's an expert on recessions. And well, she sure knows how to make a lot of money, though. You have to say that. by getting people to buy trash of songs. Do you know who Cale Cardenas is? Well, that's, you don't, but also apparently law enforcement didn't know who he was for years. He was picked up by Tom Homan in his raids in New York, because he's been an illegal alien for, 12 years, back and forth. And then this illegal alien on January 29, 2023, molested a woman. The victim told authorities she woke up as Cardenas was raping her, and he was indicted for it. Of course, it takes, the only person they can prosecute within 3 or 4 months is Trump in New York. This case has been going on for over a year, and it's just a simple rape case. Now, it's a rape. Wouldn't you just assume in a rape he'd be held in jail until he's tried? Because rapists are almost by definition repeat criminals. It's very, very rare. And then it probably isn't even a rape, it's something else. That you get a grown man, this guy was 27. If that was his first rape, I will eat the hat I don't have. Rapists are repetitive criminals. And it may go in cycles a little bit, but when they start raping, they're just gonna rape. So if you're a judge that has any concern at all for women or for you keep a rapist in jail. And if you're a DA that has any concern for people, you try them right away. Well, January 2023. What is it now? It's 2 years ago. The rape was 2 years ago. It hasn't been tried yet. Well, thank God for Holman. Holman picked him up, and we're gonna, I don't know what's gonna happen, but there's no use in trying him. They've already taken it down to a misdemeanor. When the hell did rape become a misdemeanor?
Crazy, man.
There's something very fishy about this case. Now, this is not brag, but still, this is a very, very, and this is an example of how what Trump and Holman and Secretary Noem, and how it's helping us in terms of, because this is an illegal migrant, but this is part of the criminal problem that we face in New York, which is not terribly different than the one in Philadelphia or the one in Aurora, Colorado, or because local authorities in democratic cities put large numbers of predatory criminals on the street that would not be on the street if you had a Republican mayor. I'd say in New York, about 7,000 to 9,000 of them. Well, let's see. I think we've covered everything that people need to know. I hope.
We got that BB clip and President Trump.
Well, I would like to play BB because I'd like to look at it myself again, because I do believe he was somewhat surprised.
And so many tribulations. He has a different idea. And I think it's worth paying attention to this. We're talking about it. He's exploring it with his people, with his staff. I think it's something that could change history. And it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Do you notice as he's talking about it, he becomes more positive about it? At first, he doesn't know what to say. And then he says he's pursuing it with his people, and he's pursuing it. And then it becomes very worthwhile. But I really believe, I have no inside information, so don't. I believe that he found out about it that day because they held it so close. And who knows when the president made up his mind on that?
Right.
It sounds to me, I'm also going to guess it was his idea. Yeah. That's a Trump idea. Yeah. Reshuffle the deck completely. Yeah. And Also, it would emerge from the fact that, like me, he has from the very beginning been an opponent of the two-state solution. Not been an opponent. I'm not an opponent. Of course, it'd be wonderful with a two-state solution. It's like pursuing some. It's like what's going on in Ukraine. It's a war that's never going to end unless we just end it. People are just going to get killed. You're never going to have a two-state solution as long as the Palestinians are committed to the destruction of their neighbors. Maybe the Israelis have to live with it, but they're not going to agree to it. So I think he was looking for a game changer. And I think, one, this could happen. And two, it'll provoke a lot of other ideas. The other thing I bet he was frustrated about, remember his original idea was that some of the more neutral Arab countries could come in, like Saudi Arabia, and they don't want to do it. So I guess he's saying to them, you don't want to do it, I'll do it.
The Saudis could
like
make
that?
the Saudis could make Gaza an absolute paradise.
They could,
They could.
but they don't want to get their hands. None of them want to be involved with the Palestinians. None of them. So I even think in Qatar, they only allow the billionaire Palestinians in. I don't think they'd let.
Are there billionaire Palestinians?
Oh God, yeah.
Wow.
Of course, they've been stealing the money. They've been stealing.
Oh, I guess, yeah. Where did all those billions go? I guess. Yeah.
That's why it's really funny. I often would say, if they ever spent the money on the people, the place would be like Monaco. And that's kind of what he's saying, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. How many people just don't-
I think if we go back in ancient history and we look at the history of the Philistines, we're going to see that it was kind of a very, very wealthy area at one time. Well, tomorrow, I want you to prepare. Ted has a homework to do tonight. Ted's going to have to get ready for Super Bowl talk tomorrow. We got to discuss the Super Bowl.
We do.
And
Last game of the year.
I'm very excited to see how this Gaza thing moves along and how it's being handled. And I'm hoping a couple of these nominations will get to the floor. I'm very upset about Kash Patel being put off. I don't like that. And I don't understand it when we control the Senate. I don't.
That's what I'm getting at. Why are we always?
I don't understand. Why don't we just jam it down their throats, or keep them there all weekend so they can't watch the Super Bowl? I mean, I think the majority leader can do that. I mean, he could just keep them there. Just say, okay, we're going to be in session every day until we vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Call a vote for Sunday during the Super Bowl.
Yeah. These guys can't. Now they'd fold pretty quickly, I bet.
Yeah. If you guys are not going to do it,
Get them to work.
if you guys aren't going to do it on Thursday or Friday, we'll put it for Sunday at 6:00.
But the Senate is a deliberative body. They need to debate these things. They take it so seriously.
And now we have to figure that skunk McConnell is going to vote against. Come out of the woodwork and vote against both of them.
Yeah. If you can make it to the vote.
Oh.
I hate to say it, but I
Well,
mean,
well,
it's
but
not-
you-
no, I'm just unfortunately no. Of course,
Well,
not.
I mean,
Of course
so if he
not.
doesn't make it to the
he
vote,
felt that was in reference to him, unfortunately falling.
no, but they'll
We're
carry him.
not sure.
They'll carry him there and they'll put his hand up for him. They've done that before, or they'll put formaldehyde in him, make it look like he's alive.
Right.
Whatever they have to do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to sign off for the evening and get ready for the exciting things that happen tomorrow. Who knows what they're going to be? You never know with the president that we have. Can you feel his intensity? Boy, if you can't, you're on Mars. And I thought today's I don't exactly know what to call it. It wasn't a press conference. It was a signing, I guess, a ceremonial signing. That also was a speech, and it was just a very nice occasion. Seeing all those women, young and old, and whatever, many of them athletes or former athletes. This is something they really work very, very hard for. And a number of them, I mean, Riley Gaines personifies it, but a number of them are people who have had their dreams taken away from them of being a champion or because some mediocre swimmer, male swimmer, can be a hero by pretending he's a female and he can outswim, and he's like 420 among the males. It reminds me of when back in the old days in Brooklyn, we'd confront a guy who used to hit women, and we'd say, "You want to fight a man? Let's see what happens. If you fight a man, you're shit."
Right.
Boxing, they had like that. They have males boxing females. I don't know what's going to happen with the Olympics if he says that can't happen in the Olympics in Los Angeles. The males can't compete, and the Olympic crooked pervert committee, says they can.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I mean they're still woke, I'm sure.
Then we just don't go, right?
Oh, how about we cancel it?
Exactly.
Who knows? Who knows if Los Angeles will even be there by then? God. Well, here comes our boy. Here comes our boy. He's doing. I do want to report before we get off that Raleigh is now recovered completely from the fireworks, and we're going to give him a treat. Come here, Raleigh. Come here, babes. I got something for you here. There you go. Okay. He's getting a little treat. He's been a good boy. Notice, hasn't interrupted at all. Now we're working out a contract for him, so we don't want to. We got a little exception from his agent to put him on tonight, but he's going to have to be part of AFTRA or the Screen Actors Guild or something or other. Right? Okay. So pray for the people of Israel. Pray for the people of Ukraine. Let's not forget them. I mean, I know they're being forgotten in the news, but I know there are very intense negotiations going on, and pretty soon there'll be some groundbreaking position that Trump takes to move that along, and pray for the people of Iran. I really do think something's going to happen there, very dramatic. And we'll try to dig out a few more hints of that. Tomorrow we may have one of our experts on about Iran, so we might find out more about it with Ali Reza. So we'll be back 7:00 with the Rudy Giuliani show, and 8:00 America's Mayor Live on X and everything else, right? And until then, God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to